Hello, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you. Thank you for showing up again and again. It's so nice. It's such a special opportunity to be able to talk with you and share and offer some. This is our last metta hour for the retreat. So we've had so many metta sessions between Krister and I together, and it's been really delightful and joyful to be able to share and cultivate these kusala qualities together. And I've really gotten a lot out of it, myself personally also. So I thought it would be really fitting for our last session to discuss the last Brahma Vihara that we haven't talked about yet, which is mudita or sympathetic joy. Mudita is the Pali word for sympathetic joy. And then I also want to talk on gratitude, which I don't know the Pali word, but we know what gratitude is, and how that fits into the practice related to mudita, and then also the practice of generosity and or dana in Pali. And I felt like even though it's a lot, I'm gonna try to keep it really simple. I thought that they all three of those states of the heart really flow really beautifully into one another. And when I started really thinking about it and meditating on it, opening my heart to these three qualities, they had so much in common that it really felt right to briefly touch on all three of them. So let's start with mudita first. And Mudita, or the sympathetic joy, it is because it's one of the four Brahma Viharas, it has the similar loving kindness aspect to it, like the other three that we've gone over. We've gone over loving kindness, we've gone over compassion, and we've gone over equanimity. And Mudita is the fourth, so it has this quality of metta, this quality of I wish you happiness that all the other ones have. And it's simply that the object of our wishing is different. We're wishing someone happy that already has happiness. So it's metta in the face of, in the presence of someone already enjoying happiness. And this can be worldly happiness that they're enjoying, or it can be spiritual happiness that they're enjoying. And mudita is happy that they are happy. Happy that they have good material conditions, that they have a loving home, that they have loving families or a good partner, happy that they have good health, etc. And we can also be happy for when people have experiences on the spiritual path, or when they have insights, or when they lead a wholesome life that is that leads to greater happiness. So it can be like even short-term happiness. Maybe that's not very fleeting, but the person's enjoying it, right? So like, if we see someone like a little kid eating an ice cream cone, we can develop, oh yay, we know that they're having happiness when they are enjoying that ice cream cone. We can develop this mudita for them, this joy for their joy. And I really love mudita practice, obviously, because it's just this beautiful feedback of joy in the midst of joy, which creates more joy in our environment, which then helps us tune into the joy of the mudita. And as we've learned in MIDL, we create this positive feedback loop of tuning into these wholesome qualities and then enjoying their resonance in our body and mind, and that creates happiness for us to then recognize and appreciate more happiness inside the world and within ourselves. So mudita is kind of like just like this, it's this echo chamber of happiness creating more happiness. And it is wise because it recognizes the causes of happiness. It recognizes that happiness comes from this wish of metta. It comes from wishing others well. And when that wish is being fulfilled, it gives us great joy to see that happening. It also recognizes, mudita is wise because it recognizes that happiness is uh, ultimately, or on a in a profound way, it is a state of being. When someone's happy, it's an internal experience. They're enjoying something with their heart or with their mind. They're enjoying their own wholesome qualities. And so mudita recognizes that aspect, that happiness, you can't actually um, take away someone's happiness in a way. Like if you were to give your happiness to another person, you don't get less happiness. You just continue to give, and receive more happiness. So I feel like mudita is this echo chamber, or like this ability to, like with a candle, like light each other's flames of happiness. So when someone has joy, we can pass joy to one another, and then we can enjoy the fact that we all are enjoying. It just keeps growing. So um, and it does have, like the other Brahma Viharas, it does have these near enemies that we want to watch out for. So in the case of mudita, we do need to incorporate equanimity into our mudita, because if we get kind of on this, if we don't have a balanced mind or heart that is relaxed and open with the mudita, it can get, our mind can, heart can get like really excited, and that's not really balanced, right? If we're too excited, or our mind is too um, impassioned with the joy of what we're experiencing, we can easily lose our mindfulness, or we can easily um, become upset when perhaps the joy of what we were experiencing fades or changes. So we still need to balance our heart and with this practice of equanimity, so that we don't fall into the enemy of having too much exuberance or excitement in our heart. But it is, mudita is just such a pleasant, lovely, beautiful, wholesome quality. And it is very energizing. So, everyone loves going to, most people love going to a wedding, right? Because when you go to a wedding, you see these two people who are getting married, and they are doing so because they love each other, because they care about one another. And when my brother got married, I was just bawling with happiness. I was just so happy for them, because I could see that, I could see and appreciate their connection that they had. So this enjoyment of another's happiness instantly brings us happiness as well. We can enjoy and be glad for them. And this is also beautiful because mudita is inherently not selfish. It says, I'm happy that you are happy. I also feel really grateful that I get to talk, and we together get to practice mudita and dana and gratitude today, because today is Easter. And a lot of people around the United States and all around the world, they're they're filled with joy, so much joy for this special holiday among Christians that they celebrate, and in their beliefs, they celebrate that Jesus, like, conquered death, that he overcame uh, death and sin, and he rose from the dead, and he's alive still. And he did so as a sacrifice for Christians, as a way to teach them the eternal lasting love of that is within them, and within that they can access through this love and devotion. And I think it's just so beautiful to see the outpouring of joy that my Christian friends and my parents have on Easter. It's their most important holiday. It's Christians' most important holiday. So, and it really manifests in this joy. And so, I'm walking around today, and there's many churches in my neighborhood, and just seeing people, they're just very happy today. They're easily, when I glance up or we meet eyes, there's this joy on their face. They're quick to say, "Oh, happy Easter," or "Oh, this is a beautiful day." And it's so nice with mudita to be happy that they are happy. Even though I don't personally prescribe myself as being Christian, that doesn't matter. I can just be happy that they are happy, that they're finding joy, and that they're deepening in their spiritual practice. So it doesn't have like conditions. Mudita is again this aspect of unconditioned positive regard for others. And it just feels so beautiful. It's a beautiful, loving heart. And yeah, I think that the mudita, when we realize how good it feels, our mind can just naturally start to practice it. But initially, we might run into its far enemy of jealousy. I mean, I don't have to ask us to raise our hands to ask if anyone's been jealous here before, because yes. But when we start looking at jealousy, which is a barrier to sympathetic joy, we just start uncovering all these faults. It just doesn't logically make any sense. Jealousy doesn't make any sense, right? So with a mind that's jealous, we want to be happy, and when we see someone else experiencing happiness, we say, "Oh, that's not fair. I want to be that. I want to have that." But that wanting, that craving, that being unhappy when we see other people happy, it doesn't actually get us what we think will make us happy. Like when we're jealous of another person's success, it that doesn't actually get us the other person's success. Like it brings is misery and suffering and feeling crappy about ourselves, and we start judging ourselves. And so, yeah, I've been really fortunate to notice that, and when the mind sees just how un unhelpful the jealous mind, it's kind of silly. You start to realize jealousy is a really, really silly mind because it doesn't serve really any purpose at all. In fact, it creates more unhappiness. So why don't I just be happy that that person's happy? That feels a lot better. It's a lot simpler. And it actually makes me happy, which is what I wanted this whole time. So Mudita's way makes way more sense. But it's a practice again, like all the Brahma Viharas, and we just notice, um, we notice again the presence and absence of both jealousy and mudita, and our mind starts to incline towards the wholesome through noticing and letting go and softening attitudes of jealousy. The other thing about mudita that is wise and in a way that jealousy is not is that um, jealousy ignores a lot about what that person must have had to have done or sacrificed or worked at in order to get their successes or their insights. Um, and mudita recognizes all of that, right? A mind of mudita is a mind of, or has wisdom imbued in it because it sees, oh yes, that person worked really hard for that promotion, or that person sacrificed a lot to have such strong relationships with their family. And it goes back to our understanding, which is briefly of karma that we talked about the other night, and that every living being inherits their own karma. They are heirs to their karma. So when we see someone being happy or enjoying happiness, we can reflect and notice, yeah, they are inheriting that. It's not arising from nowhere. They, at some point, created these conditions so that they could be experiencing this happiness, and therefore they're inheriting it. And really that can turn into, admiration. When we recognize the good qualities of others instead of being jealous, we can look to seeing what are those conditions? How is that person enjoying this happiness or success? If we still wish that for ourselves, it becomes an opportunity to look at what is this person practicing, or how are they living their life in a way where the happiness is arising. And this is especially true with spiritual happiness, because it being a more more satisfactory form of happiness, more reliable, and born through letting go, we can really look and see, okay, well, what are they doing to create this joyful, calm mind in their life? Instead of being jealous, what are they doing? And my godmother, she would always say, and it stuck with me. She said, copying others is the highest form of flattery. And I was thinking about that. It's like, great. If you really admire someone, you admire their good qualities and you have joy for them, and then it's like, okay, yeah, I would like that too. Instead of being jealous, let me just kind of see how I can do that. And that's what we're doing with these Buddhist teachings, right? But Buddha had all this happiness, and we're just enacting the formula through reading his teachings and practicing them and discussing them and sharing them with each other. We're basically just following the set of conditions that led to Buddha's happiness, which is way more skillful than than just being jealous of the Buddha, right? And the Buddha did have people who were jealous of him during when he was life, that are listed in the suttas. There was this person named Devadatta who comes up a lot, who was extremely jealous of the Buddha. Um, and his jealousy really did not help him. It got him into a lot of trouble, and it unfortunately for Buddha, he just had compassion and equanimity for him, and it didn't really faze the Buddha. But there might be times where we notice jealousy in ourselves, or we notice jealousy in other people, and we can just recognize that, jealousy is ultimately a state of suffering, and we can recognize how it agitates the mind, relax and let it go, and instead turn towards this joy of mudita as an antidote. It's immediately always readily available for us. If Devadatta could just have relaxed his jealousy and been happy for the Buddha, I'd be really curious how his story would have been different. So simple, but yet, it's a training. But it gets better and better, so we can lean into the wholesome, the pleasantness, and the joy that comes from this wholesome state of mudita. And in the last few meditative sessions, we've been doing these different categories of being, and I find it really interesting how with different Brahma Viharas, the order of the category of beings slightly changes, so that we work from easiest people to more difficult people. And in the traditional meditation, we start with our friend, someone who we already have a lot of metta towards. And we can think, yeah, when a friend or a close loved one is happy, it's more easy, it's much easier to feel mudita for that person. So we start with a friend or a loved one, then we can move on to a benefactor, someone who's really helped us a lot. And then we can do a neutral person, and then we do an enemy. So we do find it hard to, it is more challenging to develop mudita for an enemy. Poor Devadatta. But we can slowly break down those barriers, and find that joy can come from people. An enemy just being maybe someone who challenges us, not someone necessarily that we have strong hatred towards, but someone who's just, yeah, who makes our life a little bit difficult. Can we be happy for them when they have happiness? It is possible. It's a training. And this kind of is really, and this is interesting too, because uh, mudita, we don't traditionally do mudita for oneself. And instead, when we're developing joy for ourselves, instead of doing mudita, we actually practice gratitude. And I really love this because, you know, joy for oneself can easily turn into pride, thinking that, oh, I made all this happiness, like I'm joyful for me. So so traditionally we don't do that. Instead, when we experience happiness, we can practice gratitude meditation. So I want to, so that's how I understand gratitude. It is an appreciation for the blessings in one's life and for the resultant happiness of our actions and for the actions of others. It's it also is a mind. Gratitude is a mind that begets more happiness. So we still have that wholesome echo chamber effect where the more we reflect on gratitude, the more full our heart feels and the happier we become. And the more we see the kindness of others around us. Because gratitude understands, uh, it is wisdom again, in the sense that it understands that our happiness is not dependent on our actions. It is also a uh, huge interwoven connection, and our happiness depends on all living beings, on the actions and kindness of all living beings. So when we are practicing gratitude, uh, I really love making lists. It's definitely been it's a habit, like growing up with a family that we all had ADHD. It was like my coping mechanism. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a list. I'm gonna make a list. And gratitude is a really practicing gratitude. We can make lists. We can start off by just recognizing one thing that we're grateful for. Something simple, just the first thing that pops into your mind. Maybe it's the clean air that we're breathing. Again, that's not us making the air, that's the trees and the earth around us creating the breath that we breathe. So we can feel this immense gratitude for life, for our the health of our body being dependent on the food that we eat. And you can already start to feel into this. We bring up one thing of gratitude, and in order to recognize and appreciate that, the kindness of that blessing, it kind of starts um, becoming like a fractal. It starts kind of exploding in all these different directions. And we start to see gratitude in so many things, like an infinite web of gratitude. And so if you're making a list, this meditation can just go on and on and on. You can have this infinite list of gratitude. And notice how you feel with the gratitude as you're thinking of this list, as you're bringing to mind these different blessings in your life. Noticing how grounding that gratitude is, and how nourishing it is, and how wholesome it is, how wise it is, how humbling it is. I really love to do gratitude at the end of my day before I go to bed. And, you know, my partner and I, Chevelle, when we're going to bed at night, we'll play this game. We'll play the gratitude game. We'll say, okay, what are you grateful for? And then he'll start, and then he's like, okay, I'm tired, I'm done. Your turn. And then I'll just go on and on and on and on and on and on. And she was like, okay, you gotta stop. Because it's fun. It's fun to practice gratitude. It feels good. And you start to see and appreciate way more than you thought you were grateful for. It's a training of our perception. And we can start to notice that really we can be grateful for literally everything. Going back to what I was talking about with the compassion meditation, um, in a similar way with gratitude, we can eventually become really grateful for even the things that are the most challenging in our life, because gratitude is a heart that is open and accepting and receiving, and it enables us to be with the lessons that life is bringing us. And that's why, as in MIDL, as MIDL practitioners, as MIDL practitioners, we see the obstacles as the path. We see hindrances as opportunities. And when things in our life come up, we embrace them as opportunities for insight, as a way to grow and awaken more deeply, to see things we haven't seen before, and we can develop gratitude for them. And the gratitude really does, for the difficulties or for the obstacles, it really does just soften the sharp edges of what is difficult in our life. It just kind of smooths everything out and allows our heart to be more open to them. Also, gratitude, yeah, it helps us appreciate our blessings more. And again, we start to see what other people have given up in order for us to be recipients. My father, uh, I, such an amazing person. He just got an award at his work. He's been an emergency medicine nurse for 35 years. 35 years in the emergency department, helping people, saving people's lives, and working really grueling hours, standing on his feet for hours at a time, skipping lunches, coming home exhausted. And he did that for his patients, definitely. But he also did it for my family. He was I have three other siblings, and my mom was a homemaker raising us. So my family is completely dependent on his income for all of his family's needs. And he really put himself last. He really sacrificed a lot for me to have a good childhood and for his family to be supported. And I'm really grateful for that. And the gratitude helps me just recognize more what he sacrificed. He sacrificed his body, he sacrificed his energy, and he did so out of love, wishing his children and his family to be happy. So in the suttas, the Buddha does say that, you know, our parents are two people who we could, he says it's like not verbatim, but literal, but like as close as I can get to it, that we could carry our parents on our shoulders for 100 years, and they could defecate on us and pee on us and spit on us, and we would still not be able to repay their kindness. And, you know, people have different relationships with their parents, of course. But when I think about my parents, and I see the sacrifices that they did, and that they did the best that they could. it really is humbling to be able to open my heart in gratitude to them, recognizing how almost impossible it would be to repay them. So that gratitude is motivating. It's motivating for me to really use this opportunity that I have to further deepen insight and open my heart and practice gratitude more. And so when we talk about gratitude and we start to feel like really grateful for the people in our life and the kindness that we see and the things that we experience, we open ourselves to the possibility of real generosity because we realize, oh, I've been uh, given so much in this life. I've received so much. And so it opens our heart to want to give, to want to practice generosity, realizing so many people have been so kind to me. Of course, I want to repay this kindness. Of course, I want to, repay the kindness of my parents. Of course, I want to repay the kindness of my teachers and my friends and of the earth. So gratitude and generosity, they actually form a circle where when we are opening to our heart to the gratitude, we feel really motivated and inclined to want to give more. And so giving in this way, we in Pali the word dana, we we um we are practicing giving without expectation, or as little expectation as is possible. This heart of generosity is a virtue, and it's called one of the paramis, one of the 10 paramis. It's a practice of this metta and of this gratitude. It's a practice of the heart to give to others um, in a way where we are letting go of attachment to things and we're letting go of what we're giving, understanding again this wisdom and that uh, giving and being generous from the heart is a really beautiful thing to do for ourselves and for others. It's an expression of letting go. I think Stephen mentioned that in our Dharma talk a couple days ago, where Dana is this expression of the heart that wishes others to be happy and relinquishes the blessings in our life. So when we receive blessings, we're truly grateful. We will be motivated, inspired to give them back or to give them to others or to give them freely without expectations, relinquishing our attachment. And I think in general, like dana or giving is an extremely underrated practice. Like I think people in general, I think it tends to kind of go on the under the radar, and that might be our like societal conditioning where like we get emails at the end of the year like, yes, do your year-end giving in order to get a tax rebate, like like okay, yeah, but why can't we give all year round? Why can't we give every day? If we can find an opportunity to practice generosity every day, it's a really powerful practice because again, it's this happiness of letting go that actually creates happiness. So again, like all three of these wholesome states, it's happiness that begets greater happiness. So if we want to be happy, we really want to encourage this practice of giving. And when the Buddha was teaching to lay people, giving was the first teaching that he would actually give to lay people because it's really hard to receive Dharma or Dhamma teachings when we're like really attached to things. And it makes sense because the Dhamma is asking you to relinquish. It's asking you to let go. It's asking you to find freedom through letting go. And, for lay people, you work your whole life, maybe just to get by, just to support your family, or just to have a roof over your head, or have enough food to eat. You know, giving up for a late, giving like of a material, um, like of food or clothing or someone's time as a layperson is it's asking a lot of them. Your whole life is dedicated to earning this money so you can survive, and now you're asking me to give it away. It's like, what? So it really it challenges lay people especially to really consider what is the most important in this world. Is it the stuff that we're accumulating? Is that really what we're practicing for? Is that really what we're dedicating our life for? Is that really the source of our happiness? Or is it deeper than that? Can we actually use the money and the time and the material possessions we have to create more happiness? Because then that's a really skillful use of resources that we've earned or worked for. So, yeah, we can give lots of different things. We don't just have to give money. We can give our time. We can give our attention. This is one I'm still like really working on. When someone is talking to you face to face, or you're within another person's company, just giving your full attention to that person. You're giving your attention. It's a very, very powerful gift to give to another. And with all of the marketing going on in our late stage capitalistic societies, they are all competing for our attention. Like, our attention is literally the most precious thing we could give to another person. And all the commercials, all the advertisements, all the ways that different social media is actually designed is simply to capture our attention. So we can be mindful about what we're doing with our attention, but also when we're with another person to really like incline the mind towards this generosity of like, yeah, okay, I'm just with you right now. I'm just listening to you, and there's wholesomeness in it. It's really pleasant to deeply listen to another person. You can understand them so much better because you're attenuating to their subtle facial expressions and how their face changes about what they're saying. We communicate so much with body language. So, we don't just only have to give money or material resources. We can give attention, we can give advice, we can give our time. And I really love the practice personally of giving fearlessness. I really love this practice where, we see that um, perhaps we see that someone is having a hard time, and we're able to be fearless and hold that space with them. So being compassionate for with another person and holding space for them, you're opening to another person's suffering, and it takes a lot of bravery to do that. Like, you're giving someone else your presence and the sense of fearlessness, saying like, I'm not going to look away even when you're really struggling. There is a huge amount of bravery in that actually helps support the other person, and they can, in difficult times, they can borrow your fearlessness. They can say, oh, okay, this person's not afraid that I'm afraid, or this person's not afraid that I'm going through a hard time. It gives them the courage and confidence. I think this is true too when we see harm happening in the world, or we see other people harming another. I think personally, as an engaged Buddhist, it's good to be fearless and to say, well, actually, that's wrong, and we don't want to harm other people. When we've talked a lot about bullying on this retreat, so many of us have had really serious bullying issues where we've been bullied, or we've seen people be bullied. So it's like, if we see that as adults, or we see that happening in our world, Like we can be courageous and step up and say, "Oh, actually, it's not okay to bully my friend." Like what would have been like if when we were being bullied, if someone had done for that for us? That's giving fearlessness. And yeah, like speaking out when you see wrong being done. I think that's important. And this is a type of giving support to another person, giving them safety. So, it's just one type of giving. And I think in giving, I think it's really fun to practice on our edge, like finding what is difficult for us to give and then trying to give that. So, like when I was in college, college is supposed to be a time when you're like having a lot of fun and you're going out to parties and you're meeting new friends, you're going to have the rest of your life, whatever. But I had a lot of anxiety when I was at college. I had I had social anxiety. So that was not fun. That was not a fun time to go to a party. But fortunately, I had the Dhamma in my life at that point. I was practicing, and I had received some teachings on generosity. So I said, okay, it's really hard for me to talk to other people at parties. I'm going to take that as an opportunity to practice giving. So I would go up to people. I would like, okay, I would feel my nervousness and say, okay, I could go talk to that person. I could go give them my attention. I could go be interested in what they have to say. I just started with maybe I could do this. And I would notice the anxiety, like, oh no, you really don't want to do that. The angel and the devil, like on my shoulder, I'd be like, oh, I could do this. Oh, you really don't want to do that. Oh, that would be really hard. They would really judge you. And and so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try. And so I just said, I'll just try. So I kind of like let both of those views go and I just would go up to the person. I would like temporarily suspend the disbelief of what it was going to be like. And I just try to start up a conversation. And I focused on giving. I focused on giving to the other person in terms of wanting to know about their life, wanting to know what they were interested in, what they were studying, what they did for fun, who they knew at the party, just as a way to challenge this idea that I'd be safer if I didn't approach them. And every time I did it, it was great. It was totally fine. It was actually fun. And over time, I started to decondition this habit of being afraid to go up and talk to people. And I'm really grateful that, I challenged myself in this context in a way of like practicing giving because intellectually I knew that giving was like a good thing to do. Like it was like, yeah, it's a quality, it's a virtue. You want to practice it. And and to like actively challenge that inhibition that said, "Oh, you don't want to do that." It started to show me that fear and that anxiety, it was trying to protect me, but it really wasn't true. So it's just slowly deconditioning, talking to more and more people at parties, and it became fun, and I did make friends. And those friends helped me through some of the difficult times that I was going through. And it became really beautiful. And I one of my closest friends now is is a friend I met in college. And I just sometimes you have to go out on that limb and try. Okay, what am I scared to give? What am how am I holding myself back from being generous in this moment? And try it and just see what happens. And you might surprise yourself. And I'm really glad that I did that. Um, and so yeah, we're talking about giving. We're talking about different ways of giving, and kind of continuing thinking about giving. The reason why it's so beneficial is because it's this wholesome quality. this is wholesome state of mind that is born from the relinquishment or letting go. Again, Stephen had this like really beautiful explanation the other day of these kusala states as being wrapped around or sitting on top of these awakening factors. So when we're mindful of perhaps the barrier to what we're giving or what we're attached to, we notice the barrier, we bring our attention to that, grounded in our body, we observe it, we soften, let go, we tune into the pleasantness and the contentment of letting go of that aversion or that attachment. And then we develop mindfulness, curiosity, and balanced effort in the Goss formula, and then through the enjoyment of letting go, this contentment arises. It feels calming and grounding to let go of that fear or of that aversion or that craving. And the wholesome state of mind, whichever one it is, but in this case we can talk about giving, how Stephen was saying it like sits on top of those awakened qualities. It reminded me of just like, the classic Buddhist analogy of a lotus sitting on top of a lake. It's just so pristine. It can really bloom. The mind of giving, the mind of gratitude, the mind of mudita, or all the wholesome mind states, they can bloom on top of these first four awakening factors. And then as our mind settles and cultivates and conditions these qualities, our mind becomes more tranquil and it becomes easy for our mind to be undisturbed and to enter samadhi, to be with things that change with equanimity. And the Buddha said that the Dhamma is good in the middle, good in the beginning, it's good in the middle, it's good in the end. And so this relinquishment, it feels good. These wholesome states that we cultivate, it feels good. This is a path of happiness, not a path of suffering or feeling like we have to, we have to work really hard. It's actually a path of letting go of that what hinders us so we can bloom and open to these wholesome mind states. And so the Buddha says that around the Sutta of Giving in the Ajutta Nikaya 637. It's like a pretty famous giving quote, so I thought I would share it because it is really beautiful. He says, "Before giving, the mind of the giver is joyful. While giving, the mind of the giver is made peaceful. And after having given, the mind of the giver is uplifted." So we can feel into giving arises from letting go, and the mind is happy before, during, and after. In the beginning, in the middle, and the end of practicing these kusala states, the mind is happy. And so, just a little bit more around giving. We can check and find that we can refine our intention to give instead of maybe giving because we have to, or because someone told us to, or because it's a good thing to do. We can give because we see how it is a reflection of these awakening factors. They feel good because they are inclining towards nibbana, towards letting go. And the suttas talk about how this highest intention of giving is when it's the giver sees it as a support for the mind, being, creating conditions for further happiness, that it's actually a gift to the giver. We normally think that giving is only good for the receiver, but it's actually very beneficial for the giver. Giving supports our practice of insight and greater happiness. And he also talks about that in the Dana Sutta. And I'll just share one more quote around giving. It's because again, it's really probably underestimated or undervalued its power. But I think really why that might be is just because I have, or we collectively have a lot of attachment to our stuff or things. But he says in the Itavutica, number 18, he says, practitioners, if people knew as I know the fruits of sharing gifts, they would not enjoy their use without sharing them, nor would the taint of stinginess obsess their heart. Even if it were their last bit, their last morsel of food, they would not enjoy its use without sharing it if there was someone else to share it with. So it's like, even when, like, that's the power of giving. That's the power of Dana. That's the power of generosity. It is that powerful that even when you have only a little bit, it's still worthwhile to give because it creates so much of the conditions of letting go and finding these kusala states and turning towards the wholesome. It's just such a powerful karmic action that ends up, we're again going back to the circle, right? When we give, we also give to ourself. And it's a really fun, playful game I love doing, and I've been definitely doing it on this retreat. And you can do it with people that you talk to or that you give with, where you realize that in the action of your giving, there is no separation actually. There is no person receiving that's separate from the giver. And the one who's giving isn't really giving anything that um, they're actually receiving also. And so it's this like collapse of time and space that you can tune into that's really fun and really joyful. And you start to see basically tuning into that web of interconnectedness, seeing like there, there is no one here giving to anyone there. There's just giving arising in this moment. And all these conditions are coming together, and I'm receiving as much as I'm giving. So it's really fun to examine it in that way. And so I feel that way on this retreat. And I know that Stephen and Krister and everyone on this retreat has shared something about this gratitude around having this opportunity to share with each other, to practice together. This is extremely rare and precious, the fact that you all have given me this opportunity to share Dhamma and practice with you. I'm receiving so much from all of you, and I'm incredibly moved and grateful. So, we can do a gratitude meditation. Um, I ran out of time. I talked too much. We can do a gratitude meditation tonight at bed before we go to sleep. That's our homework. And I'd rather close with a chant so we could all chant together and give metta to everyone together. Um, and I just wanted to make a point that in this practice of gratitude and generosity, if you do, like, Stephen was like very clear. I have to share this, Stephen. When we were planning this retreat, I was like, oh, maybe we should make some kind of like deposit thing just to like encourage people to show up. And Stephen was like, you can think about it for yourself, but for me, this is totally unconditionally freely given. And that really deeply moved me because a lot of times when we go to retreats or we get exchange of services, we think, oh yeah, we just pay and we get and we receive and something. But Stephen, you've just been so generous on this retreat and the way that you wanted to do this retreat and the way that you've shared MIDL with everyone. Um, this 90-10 formula that you were talking about, there's something to this. There's something to that. There's some wisdom in that. So just really deeply grateful for you and for Linda and Deb and just especially for Linda, just being Stephen's lifelong partner and just how much you have co-created together and that we are all the recipients of it. So, so much gratitude. So if you feel motivated to give Donna like a monetary gift to Stephen and you want to practice generosity, Um, you can, and to myself and to Krister, we do have our PayPal links listed on the retreat website, and it's totally not expected. Like this was totally freely given. But if you feel that you want to practice this giving, then please do so, and we will continue to give more as well. The circle of generosity and gratitude can continue. Okay, so let's go ahead and chant our metta chant. I put it in the chat so I can pull this up. And as we're chanting in the chant, it does say that the end of the chant that we dedicate all this merit towards the happiness of all living beings, and that too is act of generosity. So I really like doing. If you come to my classes, I really love dedicating at the end because it just further create. We can practice generosity with our spiritual practice, recognizing it's not just for us, but for everyone that we're practicing. So we can do that for this metta chant too. Okay. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patiya Udang Pujami Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patiya Dhammang Pujami Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patiya Sanghang Pujami Ahang Awero Homi Abya Pajo Homi Anigo Homi Sukiyatanang Pariharami Mama Mata Pitu Acharya Cha Nyati Mita Cha Sabrahmacharino Cha Awera Hontu Abya Paja Hontu Aniga Hontu Sukiyatanang Pariharantu Imasming Arame Sabe Yogino Awera Hontu Abya Paja Hontu Aniga Hontu Sukiyatanang Pariharantu Amhakang Araka Dewata Imasming Vihare Imasming Awase Imasming Arame Araka Dewata Awera Hontu Abhyapaja hontu. Aniga hontu. Sukhiyatanang pariharantu. Sabe sata, sabe pana, sabe buddha, sabe pugala, sabe attabawa, pariyapana. Saba itio, sabe purisa, sabe iti purisa, sabe anita purisa, sabe ariya, sabe anariya, sabe dewa. Sabe manusa, sabe winipatika, awera hontu, abhya paja hontu, anika hontu, sukhiyatanang pariharantu. Dukkha muchantu yata lada sampatito mawigachantu kamasaka idang no punya bagang sabba satanang pajema. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you again, everyone. May all beings be happy and free.